From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, here we go into another big day here on the program. Glad to have you on board. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom and defending America every single day. It's what we do here by telling you the truth and digging deeper than others. Let's get rolling. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Penny Willis is up against it as a judge rules she is not off the hook for over $14 million in legal fees involving her public fight with President Trump. This is going to hurt the bottom line. Number two, Senator Adam Schiff has just been accused by a whistleblower of committing felonies by leaking classified information from one of his House committees to damage then former President Donald Trump. Very serious. And number three, it's time to separate fact from fiction. Time to separate fact from fiction. That's what I'm going to do for you today. Because it is entirely fictional to claim that we're in the middle of an oil emergency, as many Democrats are claiming because of the operations happening in Iran. Fact, the oil that we import, only about 2 to 4% of that came from the Middle East last year. Most of it comes from our neighbors, Canada and Mexico, and soon, Venezuela. Fact, oil spiking to $120 a gallon was a result of market manipulation and speculation, and insurance companies pulling their coverage from ships coming through the Strait of Hormuz. Those factors are temporary and a money grab. Oil companies are going to post record profits this year. There's no oil emergency that would warrant tapping into the oil reserves either. In fact, after spiking to almost $120 a barrel early Monday morning, the price fell all the way below $80 yesterday. Now it's back in the mid-80s. You don't have to just take my word for it. Here's the former Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette, who also points out that Chuck Schumer is a hypocrite for advocating tapping into the strategic petroleum reserves because he blocked Trump for filling them in 2020 when oil was dirt cheap. Listen.
What do you make of his call to tap it? Do we need it?
No, the dumb idea. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve was established to address what is known as an energy shock. It's when you cannot physically get the oil in the marketplace, much like we saw in 1973, which is about the time the reserve was established. I think it was established in 1974. So if the market freezes up and you just cannot get a barrel of oil, then of course you want a reserve so you can put that in the marketplace. That is not the situation we have here today. What we're dealing with today are market gyrations. That's much different than an energy emergency. And you're absolutely right to point out that Senator Schumer would not allow me as secretary to fill it up when oil prices, I should say, were in the low teens. So we could have filled it up in 2020 very, very easily. He chose not to allow us to do that. A little bit strange to see him today on the Senate floor.
Yeah. Chuck Schumer is a hypocrite on many levels, as you know. That wasn't the only issue that he switched up on the Senate floor this week. He also is making a big deal about banning oil sales to China, claiming that Trump is ignoring Americans' concerns about our current prices. The problem I have with his comments are simple. He had no problem and nothing to say when Joe Biden sold oil from our strategic petroleum reserves to China. No problem at all. And President Trump isn't just sitting back twiddling his thumbs when it comes to protecting the oil trade. We've already got many protective measures in place. Here is Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt with more information on that.
Thus far, the Trump administration has offered political risk insurance to tankers operating in the Gulf. The Treasury temporarily waived certain oil-related sanctions, and the Commander-in-Chief has offered the U.S. Navy to escort tankers when necessary. The President and his energy team are closely watching the markets, speaking with industry leaders, and the U.S. military is drawing up additional options following the President's directive to continue keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. I will not broadcast what those options look like, but just know the President is not afraid to use them. Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term. Once the national security objectives of Operation Epic Fury are fully achieved, Americans will see oil and gas prices drop rapidly, potentially even lower than they were prior to the start of the operation. And we will live in a world where Iran can no longer threaten the United States or our allies with a nuclear bomb.
Now, back to our strategic petroleum reserves. Those are an emergency measure, a safeguard, something that's supposed to be used strategically for our national security, not something to be manipulated and used for a bad market day. But that's exactly what the Biden administration did after tanking our economy just to win the midterms. That's why I don't trust one word from the Democrats on this issue. They lie, cheat, steal, and change their tune based on who's in office and their objectives. They're trying to pretend that like Donald Trump caused the spike in oil prices because he's taking down Iran's nuclear capabilities. Fact. That's a lie. And even if that were true, my opinion is that a week or two of gas prices that go up 50 cents or more is a pretty low cost for removing the threat of Iran having a nuclear bomb and other weapons and returning stability to the Middle East for the first time in 47 years. But that's not even the case. As I've already said, this is a market problem and one that will go away quickly. Yet back in 2008, Barack Obama, remember this, said he would prefer a gradual rise in gas prices in the name of climate change. He told us we just needed to live with it to save the world. Listen.
As difficult as this is for consumers right now, is in fact high gas prices what we need to let the market work, align incentives so that we do shift to alternative means of energy?
Well, I think that we have been slow to move in a better direction when it comes to energy usage. And the president, frankly, hasn't had an energy policy. And as a consequence, we've been consuming energy as if it's infinite. We now know that our demand is badly outstripping supply, with China and India growing as rapidly as they are.
So could these high prices help us?
I think that I would have preferred a gradual adjustment.
Yeah. They suggested $10 a gallon, remember that? And gas prices did go up during his presidency by a lot. Some states were paying more than $5 a gallon back in 2012. And then prices went down, but only when he released 30 million barrels of oil from our strategic preserves in 2011. Guess that's where Joe Biden got the idea. So Democrats are okay with high gas prices, permanent ones, if it makes us more reliant on things like solar and wind, both of which are not reliable and a terrible financial and national security gamble. But they criticize Trump for a short-term price hike that he didn't cause. It's been gamed, my friends. Like I said, these guys are full of it and more than happy to lie their butts off when it serves them best, no matter what's going on in the world. In fact, I just heard Senator Mark Kelly with a bit of fiction claiming nothing's been accomplished in Iran, nothing at all. Here it is.
I mean, he went into this without a strategic goal, without a plan, without a timeline. And now he calls this an excursion. So I think the president needs to, sit down and listen to the people around him, at least the few people that know what they're doing, and start to come up with a plan here. What is the exit strategy? And explain it to the American people. And by the way, Anderson, I don't see what the American people are getting out of this. We've got dead Americans.
Yeah. Mark Kelly, the most anti-American senator, maybe. More about that in a moment. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Welcome to a Wednesday. All right, Mark Kelly, this senator from Arizona, a veteran who has been the guy out there saying, do not follow unlawful orders. Nothing has been accomplished in Iran and so on and so forth. It takes some serious bullcrap to claim the Iraq war, a war with boots on the ground for almost 9 years, was more efficient than what's happening in Iran. Without a full-scale deployment, this is what we've accomplished in the last 11 days. Not 9 years, but 11 days. Here it is.
10 days in, this campaign has been a resounding success thus far, and America's warriors are winning this important fight at an even faster pace than we anticipated. More than 5,000 enemy targets have been struck so far. Iran's ballistic missile attacks are down more than 90%, and their drone attacks are down by approximately 85% since the start of Operation Epic Fury. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy, and we have destroyed more than 50 Iranian naval vessels, including a major drone carrier ship. None of the regime's vessels are operating in major regional waterways, and the Iranian Navy has been assessed as combat ineffective. The trend is clear. U.S. combat capabilities are increasing and growing more lethal and dominant by the day, while the Iranian terrorist regime's ability to respond has rapidly declined.
Rapidly declined, but sure. Senator Kelly, nothing strategic has been accomplished. He talks a big game about what Trump does or does not do and has or has not planned, but this guy is not in the Situation Room, period. Of course, he doesn't know all the details for the plans in Iran, and he shouldn't, because he would leak them 100%. He's talking out his ass. And so are all the people who claim that Trump has lost all support for the people who voted him in. That can't be farther from the truth. Even CNN has to admit that and knows that. Listen to this.
Republicans love Donald Trump more than any president's own party supporters loved him at this particular point. Just take a look here. Okay, own party supporters, 21st century presidents, own party approval, about at this point in the second term. Bush was at 77%. Obama was at 77%. Look at this. 86% of Republicans approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing at this point. That is higher than either Obama or Bush had within their own party at this point. Trump's magic touch has not seemed to wear off yet when it comes to the Republican base.
And what kind of approval are we talking about here?
Okay, so we're talking about overall approval here. How about the strongly approved, not just like, but love. Okay, we're going to look at these same presidents again. Strong approval among your own party's base. What you see here is Trump is the only one who gets a majority at this point in their presidency. Obama was at 48%. Bush was at 47%. You see here Trump at 53%. Not as high as overall approval rating, but still getting a majority of the Republican base, at least in the average of polls, to say that they still really, really, really like him.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you have it. The numbers don't lie, but the Democrats do. Fact versus fiction. That's what I'm seeing out here. It's important to separate the two. So when you hear the panic, the blame, and the finger pointing, remember what the facts actually say. There's no oil emergency, no collapsing supply, and no Trump-caused crisis. Just politics, speculation, and a familiar playbook. Separate the noise from reality because the numbers still tell the real story. That's a fact. Now, how long is this going to last? That's the question going forward. And the answer is we do not know. We don't. Israel was under heavy attack from cluster bombs last night, coming from both Hezbollah and Iran at the same time. Iran is not without punching yet. Munitions like this, cluster bombs, have been banned by world agreements, Iran ignoring those, attacking civilian populations, because that's what they do. Inflict maximum damage on civilians when you can't attack military targets. Iran is not done yet. They have been punched hard and beaten down. 5,000 targets hit, and yet here they are still punching. So let me just say this. Don't panic. The gas and oil, the president should come out strongly against this because these oil companies are taking advantage of you and me by cranking up the prices. They will set record profits this year. That's inexcusable. There's also globalists at work trying to kneecap Donald Trump because they hate him. They absolutely hate him. They'll do anything they can to make him fail, even if it means Iran remains under the boot of these radical terrorists in Tehran. That's how much they hate Trump. They'd rather see a radical dictator remain in charge of Iran than to see this president succeed. Insane, I realize. But that's where we are, my friends. So do not panic. The prices are temporary. The gas and oil will come back down. Gas was up again today, but that is artificial. Manipulators, speculators, and fearmongers. Stay the course. Did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity and cyber criminals targeted every day with a scam the FBI calls house stealing? House alarms, doorbell cameras, deadbolts, they don't work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff. They're after the equity you've built by paying your mortgage every month. If your title is not being monitored, scammers can transfer the title out of your name using a few documents down at the county and then take out loans against that property or even sell it behind your back. Yes, it happens. The scariest part is you don't even find out until collection or foreclosure notices end up in your mailbox. But by then, the damage has been done. It's too late. The best way to protect your equity is with triple lock protection from my friends at Home Title Lock. Triple lock protection, 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and God forbid, if the worst does happen, restoration services, no out-of-pocket cost to you. You can check in your home's title today. Make sure you're not a victim already. Use the promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. It's good news. Go to HometitleLock.com right now. Use the promo code Gruber. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. I'll take a break and be right back. Welcome to a Wednesday. This is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, here is, this is big news coming to me from my good friend John Solomon. This story was released yesterday. Going to get hot off the printer here today. It's about Adam Schiff, all right? A career intelligence officer, this is from justthenews.com. You could go see this story, it's an important one. A career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee for more than a decade repeatedly warned the FBI beginning in 2017 that then Congressman Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then-President Donald Trump over the now-debunked Russiagate scandal, according to bombshell FBI memos that FBI Director Kash Patel has turned over to Congress. Schiff was knowingly releasing classified information. The FBI 302 interview reports obtained by Just the News state the intelligence staffer, a Democrat by party affiliation who described himself as a friend of both Schiff, now a California senator, and former Republican House Intelligence Chair Devin Nunes, considered the classified leaking to be unethical, illegal, and treasonous, but was told not to worry about it because Schiff believed he would be spared prosecution under the Constitution's speech and debate clause. No publicly disclosed opinion from the Attorney General or the Solicitor General can be found making that determination as a matter of law, period. Schiff committed felonies here. Officials telling Just the News that DOJ officials showed little interest in pursuing Schiff when the allegations were brought to them years ago. citing the same excuse. In his most recent interview with the Bureau, the whistleblower, whose name is redacted, told agents from the FBI St. Louis office that he personally attended a meeting in which Schiff authorized leaking classified information. Schiff didn't have the standing to release classified information or declassify it as a member of Congress. When working in this capacity, the staffer's name, who was redacted, was called to an all-staff meeting by Schiff. In this meeting, Schiff stated that the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump. Adam Schiff committed felonies. Go read this story. It's pretty shocking. Not surprising, but shocking that he would be so reckless to commit felonies in pursuit of Donald Trump. That's what it says. I'll take a break and be right back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, I've been talking since this happened late Sunday into early Monday. The price of oil was pushed to almost $120 a barrel, but there was no mathematical cause for it. Speculation, manipulation, fear-mongering, that's what pushed us there. You don't have to take my word for it. Rick Heidner is a Republican Illinois candidate for governor. He also is a gas and energy entrepreneur. He owns gas stations and works in this industry closely. Rick, good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me again, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Look, you own, what is it, Ricky Rockets gas stations in Illinois and one in Texas. You've been involved in this energy sector for years and years. And we have tremendous reserves of oil and gasoline currently on the world markets. The United States only gets 2 to 4% of its oil from the Middle East at all. And sometime in the near future, we won't get any because we won't need it. Venezuelan oil will come back to the United States, I think, which will curtail even the 2 to 4% needs. This is completely manipulated and a money grab from where I sit looking at the price of gas every day. Am I close to the truth? Where am I?
Well, yeah, when it hit $119 yesterday, I was absolutely shocked. I basically looked in the morning and it was mind-boggling. And you think a $35 in one day up and down, fortunes were made, fortunes were lost. And it doesn't really make sense. The panic or the somebody, some markets moving, it's a world market. I understand that, but it really affects so much when things like that happen. And yesterday made no sense at all to me. Zero.
So let's break this down then. You've got speculators, people playing the futures market, but you've got the oil companies who, look, the price of the gasoline that's in the ground right now at most of these stations was there previously. That was selling for $2.90 a gallon here in Michigan. Now it's $3.69. The oil companies, they're making a fortune here. I know you're trying to keep your prices as low as possible at your stations in Illinois to help people out, but other folks are cashing in, are they not?
Well, it depends how much you sell, right? If you sell 2,000 gallons a day, it's a big difference than you sell, 10 or 15,000 gallons a day in these gas stations. So, when you purchase the gasoline and you get it in your tank, 20,000 gallon tanks in the ground, when the price goes up, you have some extra margin if you increase accordingly. But when it comes down and you have expensive gas in your storage tanks in a gas station, it's a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
But the manufacturing here, a barrel of oil is in the low 40s for the oil companies, and when these kinds of spikes go up, there's a lot of money that can be made by the major oil companies, and we see that every time. We're in shock. We're and then when the quarterly reports come out later on, the end of the quarters, whenever their quarters are up, then we hear that they've made so much money, and it's so surprising sometimes.
Yeah, riding on the American consumer and all Western nations for that matter. I did see something yesterday I want to ask you about. President Trump announcing yesterday the first U.S. oil refinery in 50 years is going to open in Brownsville, Texas. A $300 billion deal involves some companies from India and the United States. We haven't had a new refinery in America in 5 decades. How important is this as we continue to step forward into American energy dominance?
Hugely important. I mean, this president is made us a power in the industry, and we have enough. We have enough oil. We have enough where we could produce. We could get it, and by what he's doing here in the Middle East and stabilizing everything, and that'll be for hopefully decades or generations. I mean, what he's doing, I believe that we're going to be back down to about $60 a barrel when everything levels off, 60 to 65, even less than the 67 we were at when this conflict started. And that's helpful for everybody. That keeps inflation down.
How soon could that happen? I mean, obviously, we kick off the big summer travel days, Memorial Day, big kickoff for people traveling all over. Right now, they're looking at gas prices, and they're a little shocked. Now, remember, under Joe Biden, oil went to $139 a barrel. All right, so we're nowhere near that.
Gallon.
That's right, $5 a gallon. So where will we, just your best guess, Rick, I'm not going to hold you to this. Will prices be down by Memorial Day, and if so, where would we expect them to be? Your best guess.
My best guess is if we're not back to normal, we'll be close. This might take a little bit longer, but we have plenty of reserve. We have plenty of capacity. You know, we're making our own, but it is a world market. It's going to be, we'll call it played with. I just keep wanting people to, you know, not panic. Not panic. Don't be greedy. Let's help our president. I mean, I heard you saying a little earlier, there's a lot of people that'll do anything they can to make the president look bad.
True.
And that's a shame because you're playing with people's lives and you're playing with, people's livelihood. So
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. The president, he has these oil and gas company CEOs, the big ones, on speed dial. Is now a time to call them and say, knock it off? Stop playing games with the price of oil, or is that beyond the control of people in this country?
No, it's not beyond, and I'm telling you right now, my suggestion is not to make this president mad, and smart people will not make this president mad. So I've been calling on the industry to be calm, be fair, be strategic. Let's not panic. Let's not let people panic. This is a win-win-win. This is not something that's going to be hurting us. This is something that's going to be helping us, you know, and then the stabilization and the safety of the people of Iran, giving them back their country. I mean, I just keep saying the same thing. I don't want this president. I don't want this to end up being Iraq and us having to go back in, a dozen years from now.
Yeah, we don't want that either.
No,
Rick,
it needs to be done right. I don't want him to. He doesn't ever come under the pressure and make changes because of it. So I'm not really worried about that. But I just wish that everyone would help him. You know, I'll do everything I can to help him, and everybody should be thinking the same way.
Rick, you're running for governor in Illinois, a state that needs a governor, in my estimation. Real quickly, tell people where they can find you.
It's rickforillinois.com. And please read about me. Please know who I am. I tell people to look at all the candidates. It's a really important election. And I definitely think I'm a businessman, and I really want to make Illinois a business the way it should be, like our country's been made the largest business in the world. And we got the best businessman in the world taking care of it. I'd like to do the same thing for Illinois.
Rick for Illinois. Go check it out. Rick for Illinois. Rick Heidner. Appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bring some sanity back to the gas pump. It's a money grab, folks. As I've been telling you from the beginning, this is BS. There's no supply issue. No supply and demand issue at all. When I come back, I'm going to talk about how to make you healthier. How about that after the break? You know, at this point in the conversation, it's March. How is your New Year's resolution hanging in there? For most people, it's faded into forgotten. It's true. One of those big ideas, always to lose weight. And by the time you get to the middle of January into February, and by March, most people have said, well, maybe next year. Losing weight is important. Obesity is a deadly problem in America. Joining me is Dr. Alejandro Diaz, Chief of Pediatric Medicine at the Wellness Company. Doctor, nice to see you today.
Hi, Steve. Good morning. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, most of these New Year's resolutions are a distant memory at this point. The most common, like I said, lose weight. And we know this country is facing a serious problem with obesity. I mean, if you look at the deaths related to obesity, hypertension, fatty liver, cancer, all of these things, they pile up. And it's no way to live, is it?
Yes, Steve. Unfortunately, in the United States, there is about 42% of adults, they suffer from obesity, and up to 74% overweight. So those are tremendous numbers, and I speak to this about this is the real epidemic. And you're right about trying to lose weight, and it's important because overweight and mostly obesity, they have been linked for many years with chronic disease like hypertension, prediabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cancer, and so many other diseases. So it's really important to lose weight and try to stay in a good BMI, which is between 25 and 28 or so.
Yeah, hard to get there, though. You've got, look, a lot of people on these GLP-1s. I've heard some horror stories from friends of mine who, it didn't work for them very well. And they got pretty ill, actually, doing GLP-1. It works for some people quite well. Are there other things you can do? Are there things that can make GLP-1s work better? Are there other things you can do? Are there alternatives, frankly?
Oh, definitely. So talking about specifically tirzepatide, which at the Wellness Company, they develop sublingual tablets. The sublingual tablets will get rid of those needles, the pain, the problem of injecting yourself, and so on and so forth. And most of all, controlling your dosing. You can control the dose through the sublingual tablets, and there has been related some side effects with GLP-1, specifically nausea, GI discomfort, some vomiting, and some other things. And the addition of B6 and B12, we can increase the tolerance to these medications and the energy as well, specifically with B12. B6 will be for the nausea. Mm-hmm.
Let's skip to another topic here. It's an important topic. Supply chains. You know, with everything going on in Iran, it brings back into focus all the challenges we faced during COVID. And that is the problem that 90% of our pharmaceuticals originate in two places, China and India. Mostly China, a lot in India as well. And if they decided, hey, we've got a problem, there's a war, a disruption in the supply chains, it could really impact people here, right? You can't get your prescriptions. The supply chain goes back to China, and that chain is broken. Then what?
You're absolutely right, Steve. And, recently I just came back from India. And you're right. You know, the vast majority of raw materials to produce medications, they come either from China or India, as they call India the pharmacy of the world. So especially during this huge conflict that we are living, the supply chain, it's compromised for obvious reasons. So it's important to stockpile your medications, your emergency kits, your first aid kits, your contagion kits, like the ones we have at the Wellness Company, which are very important for everybody to have those on hand, for families, for everybody. It's very important.
It is, and in fact, I've got one right here. This is the original, I would say, the medical emergency kit. It's got antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics. It's got medications for all sorts of challenges. And look, it doesn't have to be a supply chain issue. It could be a big storm. It could be one of these big blizzards we saw in New York City. It could be a hurricane. We're heading into that season before too long. One of these tornadoes that tears the place up, and you can't get to the pharmacy, or your pharmacy closed like so many have in the last year. It's just a good idea to have these around, isn't it?
100%. And even like you said very well, Steve, even without those situations, you know, the wait lines, the long lines, the hassle and the time to spend to go out to the pharmacy, long lines at the doctor's office, and so on and so forth. You have your first aids, your contagion kits, and all of our emergency kits at the wellness company, and you have the problem solved right there.
Yeah, I have them right here available. Here's the first aid kit. By the way, it's the most comprehensive first aid kit I've ever seen. I've used it a few times. I'm clumsy, and gravity always wins, doctor, as you can imagine. But the burn cream, I burned myself last year pretty severely on the back of my hand, and the burn creams and everything in this were very helpful. I recommend you get these. Doctor, really appreciate you being here. Be prepared. Be as paranoid as a Boy Scout. Be prepared. Doctor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
And the great thing about these kits, you can put it on your shelf, right? I've got them right here. You've got the original kit, the medical emergency kit, the first aid kit. You've got travel kits, kits for kids. They put it all together for you. And there's a book in here that tells you exactly how to use everything in here. And you can have it resupplied. If you use something out of here, you can call up and they'll send you a replacement, right? A refill. TWC.health/Gruber. TWC.health/Gruber. You can get these on your shelf. Look, I've got them. You should too. I wouldn't wake up without this in the house. We had big storms last night. Luckily, we got through, but you need to be prepared. TWC.health/Gruber. You're going to save 10% using that promo code Gruber. So get prepared, my friends. Not scared. I'll be right back. Well, bad news for Fani Willis. More bad news. A judge in Fulton County, Georgia, ruled Monday the district attorney, Fani Willis, cannot participate in a fight over President Donald Trump and his co-defendants' attempt to claw back millions of dollars in legal fees spent during her failed racketeering case against him. Let's see here. Judge Scott McAfee said in an order that because Willis was already wholly disqualified from the prosecution, she could not be party to the battle over what amounted to $16.8 million in legal fees sought by Donald Trump and his co-defendants. Uh-oh, she's getting the bill and she can't fight back. Trump has demanded that Willis's office reimburse him more than $6.2 million in attorney fees and costs. McAfee's order marks a big victory for Trump in his years-long feud with Willis, who he said was a rabid partisan on a witch hunt during the prosecution. Yeah. And by the way, you're going to hear a lot more about Fulton County in Georgia, Maricopa County in Arizona. Those investigations are getting serious. The deep state investigations are getting serious. Again, I'm paying close attention to John Solomon's reporting on all these fronts. It's a big deal. And somebody just asked me, what about Adam Schiff? Why is this a big deal now? Because Adam Schiff said during a staff meeting to release classified information on Donald Trump. Classified. Adam Schiff had no standing to do that. It's a felony. In fact, it's probably several felonies. So you've got one of two things. Either the whistleblower lied and committed a felony, or he told the truth and Adam Schiff committed felonies. I'm going with the latter here. Big trouble for Adam Schiff. It's real. Very real. This part of the program brought to you by PuroClean's Veterans Initiative, PuroVet. Empowering veterans through franchise ownership in a $210 billion restoration industry pushes you right to the front of the line. If you served, they're doing something big for you. If you're a veteran, you want a business and a chance to be in the restoration industry, 855-PuroVet or purovet.com. Purovet.com. Good to see you here. Follow me on all those social media platforms, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Send me an email at stevegruber.com. And right here, sign up for YouTube. Sign up for YouTube right now. I'll take a break and be back with 2 more hours of The Steve Gruber Show.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's rock into it. Another big hour here on the program, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom, you know? A little bit of steadfastness, looking out for this country. A little bit of gratitude that we live in a great country and want to protect it, all right? How about that? 3 big things to know this hour. Number one, John Solomon continuing to pull back the curtain on election interference. He says it's coming from our biggest adversary on the planet and calls into question the midterm elections coming up this year. Number two, the IRS working overtime in Minnesota now to run down fraud and worse, not paying taxes on money gained illegally through the fraud. Yeah, this is not going away and people are going to jail. And number three, let's dig deeper. All right, into these allegations that Adam Schiff planned and then executed a plan as the chairman of the House Oversight Committee to knowingly release classified information that he did not have the right to do, to release classified information to hurt then former President Donald Trump politically. If true, that means that the first-term senator from California could actually be arrested and put on trial, and it appears that either the whistleblower is lying or Adam Schiff is. There is no middle ground here, my friends. A whistleblower said that during a staff meeting, among other times, during a staff meeting, Schiff outlined his plan to release classified information, and he thought it would get Donald Trump indicted. That's a felony. A whistleblower, like I said, fingering Adam Schiff for releasing information on President Trump to hurt him politically, and worse for Schiff, it's a felony, like I said, to do so. Listen to this.
It doesn't get much more serious than that. The chairman of the House Intel Committee doesn't have declassification authority over these types of documents. They are made available to Congress under very tightly controlled rules. This has been a source of tension for years. And members of both parties have gone out of their way to assure that this material would be closely held and not weaponized. Schiff was viewed as one of the most political chairs of that committee in its history. And this is a truly chilling account, if true. Now, when I first read it, frankly, I was taken aback because it's perfectly moronic to commit such a felony with a planning conference meeting with staff. That's not usually how things are leaked in Washington, D.C. What makes this different, Will, is that this was a statement made to FBI agents. The person who made this statement was no doubt aware that lying to FBI agents is not just a crime, but a crime that was repeatedly prosecuted during prior administrations, including the Obama and Biden administrations.
Right.
So making this statement puts you at risk. That's why someone's lying here and someone's a felon.
Someone is lying here and someone is a felon. Period. Well, the whistleblower is not going to come forth discussing with the FBI. It's in a 302 document, released now, and obtained by Just the News and my good friend John Solomon. He has the 302 document. The whistleblower's name has been redacted, but the fact of the matter is, this whistleblower said Adam Schiff was releasing classified information. That was a plan. Malice aforethought. Did it intentionally with the express purpose of getting Donald Trump indicted for crime. That's it. Adam Schiff must be charged. Put this on trial. Put the whistleblower on the stand. And call in the other folks that were in those staff meetings. See if they want to take the fall and fall on their sword for Adam Schiff. I think you know the answer. No way in hell will they do that. Adam Schiff has been a dirty player. And he thought he could get away with it. First, they always thought that Hillary Clinton was going to be president, was never going to be an issue. But then he thought, well, I can get away with this because they'll never track me down. But they have. Very serious. Here's more. Listen.
Well, this is a very significant punishment. You can have, in addition to having multiple counts, you can easily go 10 years in terms of sentence, if not more, depending on the circumstances and the number of violations. Each of these leaks is an individual violation. Each of these documents would likely be charged as a violation. That type of count stacking is precisely what Mueller and others did. Remember, these are these are very similar to the types of claims made against Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago, that he removed material and improperly stored them. There were also allegations that he might have revealed them to third parties. But this is much more serious in one sense. Trump was accused of negligence in most of these counts. This would be a premeditated criminal act to release classified information to damage one's political opponent.
There you have it. 10 years. 10 years. Right? I mean, this is massive. Because you have to think that maybe it's not just Adam Schiff. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe there are other people involved here. This is the plan by the Democrat Party. Pile on Donald Trump. Look, there were 4 different counterintelligence investigations launched. Not just 1, but 4. Right? You've heard of Crossfire Hurricane, of course, and Arctic Frost, but there are more, 2 more, named investigations that were targeting Donald Trump. First, for the now completely debunked Russia hoax, completely debunked, regardless of what your friends say over on TikTok. And Adam Schiff was one of the key orchestrators of this hoax to bring down an American president, to then go after a former president, to raid Mar-a-Lago. All of these things are interconnected, every single one. And the players have to be held to account. Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, you better do your jobs. Because now it's out in the great wide open by a whistleblower, a 302 document from the whistleblower explaining this is what Schiff did. And as Jonathan Turley pointed out there on Fox News, the administrations of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, they went after people for doing this very thing. They prosecuted for this very crime, and yes, it is a serious felony crime. How can you trust your government if you have dirty agents inside of it? People like Adam Schiff out there hustling every day to bring down a sitting president, which he's still doing to this day. If these criminals win in November, these criminals will then have the upper hand again. And yes, I use the term criminal. Because if this is true, and I have no reason to doubt the reporting of John Solomon at all, then these are very serious crimes. Jonathan Turley, very level-headed. So when he says it's serious, and either one person's lying, one person's a felon. One person's lying, one person's a felon. You figure it out, because I have. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, here we go back into it. By the way, the markets yesterday pretty well flat. The Dow was down 34 points, the Nasdaq even, and the S&P down 14 points. So, like I say, don't panic, my friends. Things are just fine. You know where things are not fine? The teachers' unions. Who are these people who think that they can control your children and use them as pawns in a political fight, which they're doing now? These staged walkouts against ICE, rallying the students, lathering them up, turning them into their own private rent-a-riot. Ryan Staley is the Director of Research and Defending Education, joining me now. Ryan, nice to see you.
Good morning, Steve. Thank you for having me on.
You say, and I think this is an interesting word, and I like this, time to end the teachers' union mobocracy. The mobocracy, the rent-a-riot crowd. They're using kids in L.A., Chicago, Oregon, staging these protests against ICE and developing an anti-federal agent mentality. Oh, it's your government. They're the problem. No, the problem is that we let in 20 million people, give or take. Nobody knows how many people came in illegally. And the number of people that came in illegally that are using government funds is over 60%, according to recent studies. I mean, this has to end. But these teachers' unions, they're lighting a fuse to create chaos and problems. They've got to go. Where am I wrong?
Yeah, you know, this is not new. These unions, especially, let's say, United Teachers of Los Angeles, UTLA, they've been using their leveraging with the district for years now to advance social justice policies. In fact, I'm going to jump to San Francisco. They just did a tentative agreement where they built into their new contract not only a sanctuary city or sanctuary school status, but also that they're going to fund housing for these people. You know, they claim that they're doing it for social justice reasons, but it's just this vain virtue signaling that the unions have been doing. And in the case of UTLA, hold
on. I'm terribly confused by what you just said. How does a teacher's contract have anything at all to do with housing illegals?
Well, they're holding these districts. You know, they're using the districts as a way to advance their political agenda. We've seen that over the last summer with their constitution and the things that they're passing at the national level. These are model policies, by the way. The NEA the National Education Association has a model policy for these things that they're building into contracts. And so this is something that they're doing on a regular basis to try and drive their agenda into schools. And really the big picture thing with this, Steve, is they're trying to gather political power locally, and they're using students to do it. Go back to your UTLA piece. What we uncovered was handwritten documents, by the way, of a woman who was just elected the treasurer of that union. And what they're doing is they want to use the students to patrol the neighborhoods for ICE activity, and they want to give them service learning hours to do so. We also saw this up in Minneapolis back in January when things were really heated up during the winter there, where they were working with nonprofits to train the kids up in activism and then take them out to protest on the streets.
So they're training active militants. Because, first of all, one of my big problems with education today is these teachers have no control over their classrooms to begin with. How many videos do you have to see of kids pummeling the teacher and getting no consequences as a result? These kids have no respect inside the classroom, and that transcends into their behavior on the streets, does it not?
I think that's a real concern, especially for parents. And as a former educator myself, I agree with you that you start throwing these children out on the street, or in many cases, allowing them to leave school unsupervised off campus. And bad things are going to happen and have happened. We've got some evidence here and there of students beating up fellow classmates because they voiced their opposition to that current trend, you know, basically a pro-immigration enforcement angle. And so you have parents who, by the way, I don't necessarily support parents confronting these children on the streets, but the parents have just as much a right to go out there and voice their concerns. And they're getting attacked in some cases. And, you know, Steve, anybody that's been around children long enough, especially teenagers, understands that the more the numbers are in a group, the bigger the chances are of them doing some really probably not smart things.
Well, back to your
so
word, mobocracy, because the mob rules. Right. You know, you get a mob mentality, and people get beat up and people get hurt. And what's going to happen when they pull one of these stunts and some kid gets hit by a car because they're in the street or something really stupid and avoidable? Then what?
Well, that actually already happened in Nebraska. A young woman decided that all the kids were on the side of the street in front of the school, and this young woman decided that she was going to get in the street and then charge an oncoming car. And she got hit. And of course, obviously the driver gets blamed, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a bigger concern when you add in this issue, the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and the concerns over the terrorist cells that the alarm went up the other day, because we're allowing these children to go out on the street in massive amounts. We've seen this already try to happen in New York City. I'm really deeply concerned about these children being used in a manner that advances a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to add in with the teachers' unions to circle back around to that is, yes, sir.
Go ahead, real quick.
Well, I was going to say, they're all planning a massive protest on May 1st across the country, teacher walkouts, student walkouts, et cetera.
On May Day, the Communist Day of Celebration. Of course, it's May 1st.
Correct.
The Communist Day of Celebration, May Day, celebrated in Russia and elsewhere to celebrate Karl Marx, one of the worst people in world history. Ryan, you come back anytime, because there's a lot more to unpack here, and we need to keep doing it and keep people informed of what's really happening in the classroom and on the streets. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, Steve.
There you have it. The mob mentality, teaching your kids to attack federal agents, to walk out and do whatever kids do when they're not in class. Please. Reckless behavior needs to be called out, and that's what we're doing here. I'll be right back. I mentioned a moment ago that there are a number of named investigations, counterintelligence investigations into Donald Trump. My good friend John Solomon digging deeper and deeper every day into this cesspool. And I want you to hear exactly what he says about it. Listen.
Is. That means for almost the first 9 years of his career, the FBI only saw Donald Trump as a potential threat to national security. Those are according to documents and interviews we conducted here at Just the News over the last 6 months. Director Patel has personally led the effort to find these 4 operations. Here are the 4 code names. Crossfire Hurricane, you know that one well. That's about Russia collusion, now debunked. Round River, one you probably never heard of until today. That's the one that looked at people who dared to look at Hunter Biden and treated them as though they were a national security threat. Russian disinformation artists. I have a funny feeling I'll be in those files. Plasmic Echo, that's the one that took Kash Patel's and Susie Wiles' phone records before they became FBI director and White House chief of staff. There's also an allegation that the FBI in that investigation might have looked at or listened in on one of Susie Wiles' conversations with her lawyer. And then the last one that we've talked a lot about on the show the last few months since we first broke it, Arctic Frost, an investigation that looked at the president and his supporters' efforts to submit alternative electors to the Senate after the 2020 election as a criminal conspiracy, even though John F. Kennedy and a candidate all the way back in 1876 did the exact same thing, and they never got prosecuted. In fact, they were deemed to just be protesting, as they're allowed to, before the government. But in Donald Trump's case, the FBI viewed it as criminal.
Yeah, all of this coming into the light now, and there's a lot more to come. Now, Will the big networks report on this? No, probably not. Will we tell you the truth? Yes, absolutely. Every single day I'll tell you the truth here. Every single day. And we'll pull back the curtain as much as we can. And a lot more to come from Solomon on interference from a foreign power. And he said it here yesterday. China created fake IDs to create bogus mail-in ballots. You figure it out, because I did, and so did John Solomon. It was never about Russia. It was always about China. We'll be talking more about that in the days and weeks to come as well as we head to the midterms. It's all very important. I'll take a break. You're watching and listening to The Steve Gruber Show. Yeah, I just heard John Thune say yesterday there are 3 or 4 Republicans short of being able to push through the Save America Act. Seems remarkable to me because it's an 80-20 issue in this country. The vast majority of people support the idea of voter ID and only allowing citizens to vote, which is the way it should be. Who would want non-citizens to vote in America? Why would Democrats be screaming about ICE agents at polling places? I think you can figure it out. Stephanie Buhaila is the Senior Director of Communications at Heritage Action. She joins me now. Stephanie, good morning. Welcome to the program. Look, the Save America Act, very popular, right? And yet, You've got people like Murkowski and McConnell saying, no, we won't do it. Why?
Uh, I'm not sure why. Of all the places, Alaska, super red, right? Huge support for securing elections. All of the analysis and polling that I've done, there's no reason that I can see why Murkowski should not be supporting this bill. I have racked my brain to figure it out. Maybe somebody who's got some more inside information than I do can figure it out. It's a no-brainer, right? I mean, people who are not citizens of this country should not be voting.
Period.
Yeah, period. I mean, a full stop, right? This is not a negotiable issue whatsoever. Why on earth would we? The Republicans, the conservative right, knows that this is not a good idea, but the left loves Marxism and the idea of the global citizen and turning over our country and having one united new world. I don't like it, but that's what they want.
Yeah, the globalists hate Donald Trump. That's one of the reasons they've been manipulating oil prices here. By the way, oil's at $85 now, down $3 today. But they will attack him any way that they possibly can. I've seen now 4 different counterintelligence investigations into Donald Trump dating back almost 10 years now. They were running a game against him from the beginning. We now know that Adam Schiff released classified information to take down Donald Trump. It's one example after another. The globalists hate him. The Marxists hate him. But as we look at this, the SAVE Act, wildly popular. What can the president do? Is there anything he can do independent of the House and Senate to secure our elections?
I mean, I think you're seeing it a lot already, right? Carolyn Levitt went on and did a press conference yesterday. She spent a full 3 minutes talking about the Save America Act, and now the president would like to see some additions to that. No more mail-in ballots, except it used to be when we did absentee voting, it was for a reason. It was because we were traveling or we were sick. It was for the military, and now it's just become universal, and it's ripe for fraud. I have a personal story about this. Back when I lived in Arkansas years ago, I went in to vote and said that I was told that my ballot had already been cast because they had sent out a mail-in ballot and I was unaware. And at the time, there wasn't a way to secure it with voter ID. They've updated those laws now. But I had to cast a provisional ballot. But we all know a provisional ballot is not counted unless it's necessary in the end. But they don't toss out the bad ballot that was counted. It's already been counted. It's at the bottom of a barrel somewhere. We have anonymous elections. There's no way to find that and to remove it. So we've got to figure out how to fix this. And that's what Save America does. The president knows that. It's the top of his agenda. It's what he's called on Congress to do. He's asked Thune specifically multiple times to bring it to the floor, to use the talking filibuster to get it done. And that's what the American people expect of our leaders. That's what we sent them there to do.
It's pretty clear, Stephanie, as it's coming into full relief. First of all, Russia was never involved in our elections, not to any significant extent, but China was. And we'll be able to connect the dots here on this program. China was creating fake driver's licenses and then creating fake mail-in ballots. It's all coming back to roost now. These mail-in ballots, this is why nobody uses them in Europe, for example, or anywhere else for that matter. Mail-in ballots are ripe for fraud, whether it's done internally or by a foreign power. That is one of the things that Donald Trump is talking about. And then you've got the Democrats screaming that you can't have ICE agents at polling places. What difference would it make if ICE agents were at polling places unless you were trying to get illegals to vote? I mean, it's pretty much A to B straight line, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And if we go back about 4 years ago, we saw all kinds of voter intimidation tactics by leftists at polling places, right, that were standing out front with their trademark berets. It was a bad situation, right? And so we can't have governments going in, our own government going in and doing the things that we expect them to do, which is to protect American interests, to protect the American people on all fronts, whether it's, elections, the border, it's our economy. It's our schools. It's everywhere. You brought up China. How many university professors have been deported back to China because they were found passing secrets? They were working on government research and they were passing secrets through their jobs in their universities, and they were sent back home. it's just unbelievable that nothing has been done about it up until this point. And the president has got the courage and the political will and the people behind him to get it done. And that's what we need to do. And we need to get it done quickly.
Yeah. I continue to direct people's attention back to stories from 2020. There was a semi-truck loaded with fake driver's licenses, stopped and confiscated in the city of Chicago. 10,000 bogus mail-in ballots were confiscated in Muskegon, Michigan. And then there was the guy from the United States Postal Service who said, I brought a whole 18-wheeler full of ballots from New York into Pennsylvania on Election Day. Well, these are all widely reported stories. This is not conjecture. This is what was happening in real time on Election Day in 2020. Who knows what happened in 22, but it cannot happen in 24. So I wonder, is there any executive action the president can take to say no mail-in ballots? Can he do that? Does he have the power?
Anytime the president tries to do something through executive action, it gets challenged, right? They immediately just throw all of their money and power behind it to try and get it overturned. Whether he can do that through an executive action, I think it remains to be seen. It's a state's issue, so I think Congress is going to have some problems with that. But I would like to see him do something. I mean, you have, like, there in Michigan, right? You have Jocelyn Benson, who's just a disaster, right? A disaster.
Awful.
She's overseeing elections while she's running for office. All kinds of inconsistencies and problems with the elections there, and yet she's still there. She's still hanging around. We still see her.
Hasn't cleaned up the voter rolls, even though it's required by the state's constitution here in Michigan.
And it's also required by the NVRA, so that we have a national, a federal law that states have to have a plan to clean up their voter rolls. It doesn't dictate how they do that, but it dictates the timing and that they have to have a plan. But the states, they're not held accountable to do that, so they just kick it down the road, and they say, "Oh, we're working on it. We've got it."
But they're not. Yeah, they're not.
No, they're not.
Look, mail-in ballots benefit one party greatly, and the other one is impacted negatively. No question about that. Stephanie, come back anytime. We're going to continue to expose this. The Save America Act is critical for this country's future. Everybody knows it that's honest. Everybody that's honest
Absolutely.
knows this. Anyhow, Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. All right. We're going to take a look at some of the things that we've missed so far today. I'm doing my level best to keep you informed, to make sure you are the smartest person in the conversation today, tomorrow, and for the rest of your life. I'll take a break and be right back. It is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, some quick results out of the Georgia 14 primary that was held yesterday. The Republicans will have a very easy run come the general election for this seat. The Democrat, Sean Harris, finished first in the primary polling because it's basically open, but he only got 37% of the vote. Clayton Fuller, the number one Republican, got 35% of the vote, followed by Colton Moore, who got 12%. So that right there is a 10-point lead for the Republicans. You add in Brian Sover, Tom Gray, and other Republicans, and it's an easy win for the Republicans to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene with Clayton Fuller. He was the Donald Trump-endorsed candidate in that race. He won easily, so you have that going for you. We've been talking about illegal aliens and their impact on the United States. Democrats keep parroting the same line. Illegal aliens are good for the economy. They're good for the economy. You know, they pay taxes and so forth. Well, before you jump to that conclusion, listen to this.
Sanctuary states typically have other policies that attract illegal settlement and thus burden taxpayers with support of illegal immigrants. Besides funding emergency health care and schooling for all, a number of sanctuary states go farther and choose to provide Medicaid, subsidized health insurance, nutrition assistance, housing, and much more. Illegal immigrants use these welfare programs in large numbers. My organization has found that over 60% of illegal alien-headed households are using at least one form of welfare program, and usually more than one, at a cost of tens of billions of dollars to taxpayers.
Did she say 60%?
This is why any resources spent on immigration enforcement actually save taxpayer money in the long run.
Did she say 60%? I thought that illegal aliens couldn't get government program money. The Democrats keep telling me that, and yet, when you look at the numbers, there it is. It would save tens of billions of dollars. Immigration enforcement would save this country hundreds of billions of dollars potentially. It's common sense stuff, isn't it? Meanwhile, the SBA administrator, Kelly Loeffler, who was just on this program, canceling billions in SBA loans that were collected fraudulently. Guess by who? Listen.
I'm here in San Diego, standing at an address that is registered to 14 businesses that took $2 million in pandemic-era loans. Those loans haven't been paid back, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. Today, the SBA is announcing we're suspending 112,000 California borrowers who took potentially upwards of $9 billion. We're going to continue to work with our federal partners to ensure accountability for COVID-era fraud that the Biden administration tried to sweep under the rug. And just like Minnesota, California is another state whose socialist welfare policies have invited fraud. Well, the buck stops here. We're not looking the other way. We're prosecuting. There's going to be more to come.
Billions of dollars, 112,000 borrowers cut off. The fraud is so rampant. In Minnesota now, speaking of fraud, which she just mentioned, it's the Internal Revenue Service. The Internal Revenue Service now coming in, not only did they defraud the government, they didn't pay their taxes either on the money they stole. Well, that doesn't go well, does it? Listen to this.
Civil enforcement is auditing financial institutions that facilitated the laundering of Minnesota funds, in addition to helping support criminal and civil enforcement efforts. The IRS will also soon announce the formation of a task force.
A task force from the IRS going into Minnesota. That's incredibly important. That's Scott Bessent, of course, ripping that down. And one more thing. Lindsey Graham nailing a left-winger from the Cato Institute yesterday about illegal immigration and deporting illegal aliens because it's the right thing to do. Listen.
Were there people deported inside the United States?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit unfair to compare people deported at the border versus people in the interior. I think Jessica would agree with this.
Listen. You don't want to answer a question, that's fine, but don't tell me what's fair and unfair. Bottom line, did he use judicial warrants to deport anybody? When he deported somebody interior, did he have a judicial warrant?
No.
No. Why? Because it's stupid.
Right. The Cato Institute and others are demanding judicial warrants before you can deport somebody who's here illegally. He was asking if Barack Obama did that. The answer, no. He did not. Because it's stupid. Lindsey Graham runs hot and cold for me. I'll just be honest about that. Sometimes I like the guy. Sometimes I think he's a twit. Depends on the day and the topic. Is that fair? Sometimes he's all right. When he stood up for Brett Kavanaugh, that was great. Other times, he's a bit of a twit. Fair? Don't tell me what's fair. I'll tell you what's fair. And one more thing on the SAVE Act. Here's Chuck Schumer spreading fear and lies about voter ID again. Listen.
Yes, but their bill isn't voter ID, number one. It is about voter registration. It allows ICE to kick tens of millions of people off the rolls, and they don't tell them until Election Day, and you show up and you say, you're not registered anymore. You're not registered here. You're not on the rolls.
Tens of billions of people being kicked off by ICE. Please. The big medical hack of 2025 was several peer-reviewed studies identifying the direct connections between anti-parasitic medications, having off-label benefits, fighting a wide variety of cancers, and this makes sense, the connection between tumor growth and parasites known for years. While the CDC remains silent, they have admitted that millions of Americans suffer from parasitic infections that often go undetected or undiagnosed. It's why Peter McCullough, the chief scientific officer at the Wellness Company and the world's most published cardiologist, says these studies make a clear case to do at least one medical-grade parasite cleanse every year. We do it here. You should as well. Go to twc.health/Gruber. You can get a 90-day supply. Free shipping, $60 off at the Wellness Company. twc.health/Gruber. It also fights cancer. Pretty remarkable, this anti-parasitic schedule. Yeah, we're learning a lot these days. You are as well. We'll have sports with Brock in just a moment. All right, let's check in on sports now with our good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Miami Heat center Bam Adebayo became only the third player in NBA history to score more than 80 points in a single game, as the U.S. Olympian scored 83 points in the Heat's 150-129 victory over the Washington Wizards last night in South Florida. Adebayo's performance trails only Wilt Chamberlain's legendary 100-point game back in 1962 and passes the late Kobe Bryant's 81-point game back in 2006. Italy upset the United States 8-6 at the World Baseball Classic last night in Houston. Jack Caglianone hit 2 home runs for the Italians. The U.S. must now wait for the result of tonight's Italy-Mexico game to see if the U.S. makes the quarterfinals. And the Baltimore Ravens have backed out of the Max Crosby trade due to injury concerns from his physical. The Las Vegas Raiders had traded the All-Pro defensive end to the Ravens for 2 draft picks last Friday. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
83 points? Was there any defense? Of course, there's no defense in the NBA.
No, there wasn't last night. 150 to 129. Not much, no.
How about none?
Amazing performance, though. Wow.
Yeah. Was there defense when Wilt Chamberlain scored 100?
That score, I believe, was 169 to 141. So to answer your question, not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Kobe's 81-point game. But, of course, Kobe could drain it. The difference, though, when Chamberlain scored 100, there was no three-point line, right?
No.
So it still stands above the rest.
Yeah, and Adebayo, actually, I think he was he got to the free throw line a ton, like 36 for 43 from the line in a single game.
Last night?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow.
I'll look it up just to be sure, but wow.
Yeah,
I'd say. I mean, that's incredible. It is.
It is. I'll give you that. Thanks, Brock. Greatly appreciate it. Still coming today, we'll have Ron Rademacher here so we can talk about, snow golf and other important things. Although, I think the temperature is going to be in the 70s. In the 70s. And, of course, Ivy's going to be here. You want to set your watch to that every day. So, don't forget, follow us on YouTube. Become a subscriber, right? It'll make your life better. Believe me. You can get all the Forgotten America podcast episodes, all the episodes of this show. We're about to distribute the podcast nationally on some big platforms like iHeart and so forth. Pretty excited about that. People seem to like it. You will too. Go to YouTube, become a subscriber, and all the social media platforms. I'll be back with the next hour after this. and 21.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
And welcome to it as we jump into another big hour here of the program, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom, fighting for this country every single day. We want America to be first, no matter what you call it. It's a great country. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, state representative in Michigan says dead people are still on the voter rolls, and that is a problem. It's a big problem. Number two, is Iran a state sponsor of terrorism? Well, overwhelmingly, the House said yes, except for 53 Democrats, including Rashida Tlaib. And number three, what about America? Seriously, what about America? In 1976, I remember being a kid, standing there at the parades and so forth, celebrating the bicentennial. Michigan had the great license plates, which, by the way, they've brought back recently. The flag motif, red, white, and blue license plates. They've brought them back as a special edition for 2026 for the Super Centennial 250, right? But we didn't have this problem of hating America. I think it was in fifth grade then, 1976. Standing in small-town America, watching the parade, celebrating. They had the Bicentennial Minute. I think CBS ran those back in the day, right? The Bicentennial Minute about something great in American history. We should be doing those again. In fact, I've got a plan to do that. I just have to have somebody that wants to do it. And America was just coming out of the Vietnam War a year earlier, right? Had just come out of Watergate. It was an election year. Ford versus Carter. Gerald Ford almost won despite all the headwinds he faced. He ended up losing to Jimmy Carter, but it was close. I remember the election night. My uncle called my father. My uncle lived in South Carolina. We, of course, lived in Michigan. Saying he couldn't believe the people that came out of the woodwork to vote for Jimmy Carter to be president of the United States. An average governor, peanut farmer. But it didn't matter. There was some anger, but what happened the next day? We went to work. We didn't have students walking out of school protesting this or that. Yeah, there were Vietnam protests back in those days, in the early 70s, of course. But still, we were generally united. Generally. Not the division we see today. And when I say make America great or make America first, I think back to those days. We had challenges, big ones. We had the assassinations of the 1960s, Vietnam of the 60s into the 70s. We had the gas crisis. When we really had an oil crisis, which is not today, by the way. Oil's at $84 a barrel right now. Then, of course, we had Jimmy Carter as president. What a disaster. Unemployment was high, inflation was high, mortgage rates were sky high compared to anything we've seen since. But we were still generally together as a country. We still believed that America was the great hope of freedom on the planet. But it was also at those times that these leftists, like Howard Zinn, began to seep into the mainstream. Fringe ideology began to seep into the mainstream. People like Bernie Sanders were considered kooks then because they were, and frankly, they still are. We didn't let the asylum patients run the place. That happened a lot more recently. I think about the pride we had when we learned about America and the great things we did. You know, I had to recite the Gettysburg Address, also about fifth grade. And you learn about great moments in American history. Were we perfect? No. I think Roots came out in 1976. I'd have to look. Alex Haley, Roots. miniseries, big numbers on TV about slavery in America. And somewhere along the line, we began to doubt ourselves. Why is that? America's always had blemishes, but we wrote, as a country, our founding fathers created the greatest documents in governmental history to help us evolve in times of trouble, to help us pursue civil rights and equality for all. It took too long, but we got there. Anybody in this country today can be anything they want. When Democrats look at a crowd of people, they look at victims. I see possibilities. I see futures. I see real opportunities. And I don't care what their gender is. There's two. I don't care what gender they are or what color they are. They're Americans. And we shouldn't just open the door for anybody to come here and get on the gravy train and start getting a government check. A government check. I'm on the government check. No. It's bankrupting us. But when I see things like Iran happening, no matter what your position on Iran is, for, against, not sure yet, which is certainly a fair position to take. You don't know yet. It's only gone on a couple of weeks. If it goes on for a couple of months or longer, then your opinion may evolve. People's do. I mean, Iraq, I supported that originally. What a mistake that was on my part. I was wrong about Iraq. I was wrong about Afghanistan. And I can admit that. But one thing was always certain. We stood with this country. We believed in this country. We are not a socialist nation. We are not a Marxist nation. We're a nation where freedom is guaranteed, a freedom of say what you want. Could be consequences, but you can say it. You're not going to be hunted down by your government, hung from a crane like they do in Tehran. That's not going to happen here. You can pursue your dreams. Now, that might be productive. It might be a complete failure, but you're allowed to fail in America. You're allowed to worship any way you see fit, even if I find it off-putting. The freedoms enshrined in the Bill of Rights, it is the greatest set of documents ever created to form a government. And during the bicentennial years of 1976, it was on display everywhere. I still have, we had copies. My mother had gotten these old documents, at least they looked like old documents, of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Gettysburg Address, all of those things. Great American documents, great history. And we celebrated it, and we still should. In this supercentennial year, we should still embrace America for what she is and still can be. Stop hating on her, would you please? I like my neighbors. Even if I don't agree with them, I like them. It's a great country. And that's what I call America first. Take a break and be right back. Well, it's middle of the week. Big storms, lots of rain, little flooded out there. Apparently on the west side, got some serious flooding going on in a couple of places. It's called March. I'm told that it's going to snow by Friday. Very exciting. My next guest is always very excited. He likes mud, snow, ice, hail, cold beer, and burgers. And not in that order. Ron Rademacher, everybody, there he is.
Well, that's what they're going to carve on my tombstone, I'm sure. Other than the fact that I do hold the record for getting lost on back roads of Michigan. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Ron. Did you get rained on too, like the rest of us?
We are getting rained on, and we are hoping for that snow. I know most people are done with it, but we're leaving here Friday morning to head up to Nema for the annual snow golf tournament.
Oh, well, they got drilled last night. If I was watching the radar correctly, basically everything north of the bridge got pummeled with snow. Was I wrong?
I have not looked. I've been riveted by listening to your program this morning, so I haven't had a chance.
I understand that.
I was consulting my favorite app in anticipation of the trip. That's a Michigan map for you young people who don't know what that thing looks like.
Yeah.
Well, because on the way we have to.
Who is this Rand McNally fella anyway? I don't know. Anyhow.
We have to choose our route, and we're going to leave early enough that we can have a late breakfast. So we're trying to pick between the Iron Skillet in Mansalona and some secondary or tertiary place, But so we're trying to figure out our route.
There you go. So golf trip, yeah, it looked to me like it was piling up there. I think you'll be lucky to find your balls in Nema.
Well, yeah, that's you don't want to lose your balls in Nema. That's for doggone sure.
Right.
But there'll be plenty of help out there. So, but and there's another sign of spring, Steve. I don't know if you saw it on the cheat sheet I sent, but did you see the videos of the skies in Kearney, Nebraska, a couple of days ago?
I did not, but man, they're making noise here.
They're dark with the ribeye of the sky, flocks of sandhill cranes flying in to get ready to devastate the crops once more. So that lets us know that St. Patrick's Day is almost here as well.
Right. So, yeah.
One of my favorites, which I'm not going to be, well, I may be back in time for one day of it. And there are great St. Patrick's Day events all over the state, but probably the best.
Can I say something here? I'm a big lover of music. I am.
Okay.
The only music that I can't get the feel for it is Irish music on St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to be honest, and I know people are like, "What's wrong with you?" Nothing. It just never sat with me. Is that weird?
This was a problem in Ireland back in the day as well. Believe it or not, the Irish youth could not get into it. They found that by applying a liberal dosage of liquor, Irish whiskey, greatly enhances the enjoyment of the fife and drum bands, which they will have in Grand Ledge. So
the enjoyment of the Irish music enjoyment is based on how much Jameson you consume. I got it.
That is, and a little Guinness will not hurt either. If you wanted a little mellower, so you might try that. They're also having one in Harbor Springs. If you're up there around the northern compound, you could dash over. Just do not drink and drive, ladies and gentlemen. Do not drink and drive, especially on the ice. You got a couple of people.
Don't drive on the ice right now. Good Lord, they're gonna be fishing you out. I was in Harbor Springs here a couple of weeks ago. What a lovely town.
Beautiful town. Beautiful little town. Mm-hmm. So we've got other good stuff going on for spring. Tipton, the Hidden Lake Gardens is having their spring. Their March flower sale, and this is a good time when you get out there too. Is you can go out and try out their new canopy walk trail. They've got one of those bridges that goes through the tops of the trees. Gorgeous hike.
And that's at Tipton. Yep.
That's in Tipton.
Right.
Grand Rapids Sugar Bush Festival at the Blanchard Nature Center. So you can brush up on hone your mapling skills, Steve. Do you tap there at the southern compound? Do you guys tap maple trees there?
Don't have any. Weird. At the northern compound, I'm loaded with them. And every time I look at them, I dream of a new steel chainsaw. Every time I look at those big maple trees in my yard in the northern compound. I think I could sharpen my saw and take this nuisance tree. I mean, they create so much clutter. God bless maple syrup, but the helicopters and the leaves and it's a nightmare for the boat. All right, I just cleaned the boat. Well, clean it again. The Maple Leaf said clean it again. Yeah.
Oh yes, that is a common lament in that part of the state, especially around Lake Charlevoix. You got those hills all around, covered
just loaded
with hardwoods and helicopters everywhere. So
you got it.
That is a part of being a landowner up there. If you're going to maintain a compound.
But here, no, I got oak trees mostly, and one sequoia.
So if you're a gardener, the Home and Garden Show at the MSU Pavilion, I don't know if you've ever been out to that event, but it happens every year, and it is a big, big, big show.
Must be this weekend.
If you're looking for water features for your garden, if you're looking for plantings, if you're looking for landscape ideas, a great show to go to, especially if we have nasty weather because it's all indoors. So
it's, again, snow by Friday from what I know you need it for NEMA, but I think the folks down here would say, you know what, the little rat was wrong. We didn't have 6 more weeks of winter. It's over. Let us go in peace. But no.
No, we know all this, and our local country club just let us know that the golf course is open April 1st. Well, we've seen it snow on April 2nd, so we're holding our joy in abeyance.
Yeah, I've always said baseball in April in Michigan, bad idea, because you're going to get snowstorms depending on where you're playing. Anyhow, all right, Ron. Let's see. What could go wrong department? Detroit craft beer candle making brewery Faisan, March the 15th. All good. And if you want your little event here, including golfing in NEMA in knee-deep snow, you can go to MichiganBackroads.com. MichiganBackroads.com.
So have your listeners come on out and say hello to me. We'll be downtown. We'll take some pictures. We'll talk to Steve next week. So, Delta County. Come on out to NEMA on Saturday.
Downtown NEMA. The whole place is downtown, by the way. There's only like 12 houses.
It's part of the Metroplex.
MichiganBackroads.com. Ron Rademacher, thank you, my friend.
Have a good one, Steve.
All right, back after this.
Polish that snow shovel. Polish your snow shovel.
All right, like I said, Rashida Tlaib, the one person voting no on whether or not the one person from my home state. The question was reaffirming Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism, right? House Resolution 1099 passed 372 to 53. Every no vote coming from Democrats, of course. How else would it be, right? And one of those, Rashida Tlaib. Of course, AOC and Ilhan Omar also voting no. AOC, how are you going to run for president, which you're going to do, if you don't think Iran's a state sponsor of terrorism? Maybe you can tell the American families of those killed over the last 47 years by Iranian aggression and violence and terrorism that it's no big deal. Maybe you can tell them. I just find it, again, that brings me back to what's obvious. It's just obvious. We have been attacked by that country time and again since November the 4th, 1979. Well, many of you have struggled to lose weight. You lose it and then you gain it back. But what if I told you that's not your fault? It's not points. It's not shakes. It's not living at the gym, being a gym rat. If it was willpower, you'd already be done. What if I told you your metabolism isn't broken, it's just turned off at the moment? Here, we can fix this. Go to gruberhealth.com, book a free consultation. These are great folks. See if a good fit can be found here. I believe it can. It's all natural. You eat real food, no exercise needed. You can turn your metabolism on naturally, learn the strategies to keep off the weight. I did this the first time in 2018, right? Lost a bunch of weight. I'm doing a reboot now. I'm going to do this with you folks. I'm going to get on the train with you. I just have to do the scan. Haven't done the scan yet. So Missy and I are going to get together. We're going to do this scan, and I'm going to do a 20-day reset. I don't need the whole thing again because the weight never came back. Gruberhealth.com. Book a free consultation. Be like me. Trust me, this could be the thing that changes your life for the better. Don't be afraid of the mirrors. Your clothes will fit better. You'll see your kids and grandkids. You'll be able to run around. Your joints won't hurt. Gruberhealth.com. Book a free consultation right now. And I'll be right back. All right, back to it now as we take a look at all the big stories. Try to give you more information from more perspectives than anybody else. That's a big part of what we do here, all right? And my next guest is Scott Mikowski, former senior ICE official, advisor with the Oversight Project. Former senior ICE official applauds Trump's efforts and cheers next phase of immigration enforcement. It's really important. Scott, welcome to the program.
Steve, thanks for having us.
I see some crazy things. Democrats lately saying no ICE agents at polling places. Why would you care if there are ICE agents at polling places? I mean, can I just ask the obvious? Doesn't that seem pretty clear to everybody why that would be?
Yeah, sometimes the obvious isn't so obvious, Steve. So, historically, all the rhetoric about ICE being here and being there, like being the boogeyman, it's just to cause fear and panic. That's what they like doing best, playing mental gymnastics with people. ICE has never been at polling stations. ICE is never trolling. In fact, even during the census, we've always toned down our enforcement activity out there so that people would not be afraid to engage in the census process. So all of this stuff is all strictly because of Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump is retooling the entire Western Hemisphere as we speak. Obviously, we know what happened in Venezuela. Maduro was taken out. El Mencho was taken out by Mexican authorities, a drug kingpin, cartel leader, but with U.S. intelligence involved there. The cartels are being targeted. Now, I think that that's going to ramp up, but you look at what's happening in the Western Hemisphere, whether it's Honduras, El Salvador, Argentina, Chile, they're all leaving leftist leadership and turning to the right. There is a big turn to the right. And more recently, Donald Trump laid out his Shield of the America Summit, and he's promoting these ideas: freedom, capitalism, security, no drug cartels. This is all part of a much bigger picture, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that that this oversight project and the Mass Deportation Coalition is, listen, we understand there's people, the American people spoke. They want secure borders. They want a secure interior. They're tired of the innocent being attacked by people who shouldn't be here in the first place. So President Trump has got he's making ICE enforce the laws that Congress wrote.
Well, that's kind of important, isn't it? It's interesting because you have anti-deportation factions who say this is not constitutional. You need an administrative warrant and other things like this. No, you don't. Barack Obama didn't use that. Barack Obama's still the king of deportation presidents, but Donald Trump is going to make an effort to catch him. But these are all red herring arguments that have only been put up because these people hate Donald Trump. He's dismantling the old ways of doing things, whether it's financial, whether it's the cartels, whether it's immigration. He's restructuring all of this. And his most important focus will be on the Western Hemisphere. And so tell me about this Shield of the Americas Summit. Well, what do you make of this?
I really don't make anything of it. My focus is really making sure that the president meets his agenda. My focus has been the Mass Deportation Coalition, getting a playbook out there to the American. We want to get the playbook out there. I think it's really important, right? It's one of his signature campaign promises. And so our focus is really on how we could assist the administration in achieving that goal. And I mean, nobody is off the table here in this plan. So I think this is going to be pretty big. This launch April 1st will be pretty big.
All right, tell us about what's happening April 1st. We're only a couple of weeks out, 3, I guess. What is happening in this next phase?
Well, we need the administration, if he wants to achieve his goals, right? They're going to have to start doing worksite enforcement operations. They're going to have to attack the H-1B visas. They're going to have to come up with, the visa overstays. They really have to go track these people down and bring them in. Any of the final orders, any of the people who've been through the system, that backlog has to disappear. So,
all right, so here's the problem, Scott, and there is a problem. I agree with what you're saying, and it's what America voted for. 77 million people voted for a secure border, which we have now, but they also voted for these people to be removed. I think we're at 3 million, both forced and voluntary, roughly. But the polling on this has been terrible. Minnesota, right, wrong, or indifferent, what happened there with a couple people getting killed that were interfering with ICE operations, has polled terrible for the Republicans and for President Trump. So how do we do it in a way that doesn't offend voters?
Well, shockingly enough, there will be polling. And when the playbook comes out April 1st, polling is part of the playbook. You'll see that's not accurate at all. I mean, it may be germane.
Hold on. I can assure you this comes from Republican friends of mine in Congress who say their internal polling in Republican districts is not good on this issue directly in the aftermath of Minnesota. Now, maybe that has cooled off some. But there is, you have to make it palatable, not to the Republicans and not to the Democrats. They're already cast. Those votes are already cast. It's that group of 8 or 12% in the middle that are going to decide this thing.
Sure. Steve, I don't doubt a lot of stuff. I don't put much in the numbers. I mean, every poll that I've ever seen, even with the president running for office, he had no shot of winning. And
That's true.
He won both of them in the landslide, right? So I think polling is just, to me, it's.
But there is a political price to pay potentially, is there not? I mean, if it's done and it doesn't look good, and people that have, maybe considered Donald Trump maybe wouldn't. It's an important consideration the way it looks, is it not?
Yes, I do. I think mistakes were made along the way. I think the messaging could have been a lot better. I think he's taken an action we've seen recently. We have a new secretary inbound with Mark Wayne Mullins. There's a lot of things that have to happen between now and the 30th when he's coming on board. But what I say to the American people is this, there's ways of doing this, which is when you go after the people who've already had all of their due process, everybody's on the table, the expedited removals. We need to use every tool possible. Banking institutions, the IRS, duplicate. We need to find out who's got duplicate Social Security numbers. You go after the employers. You have to hit them for employing these people. We need Congress. We need people to get on board and pass E-Verify Plus. And once that happens, the fiscal strangulation, so to speak, people are going to leave because people aren't coming to this country anymore to assimilate. Well, a large majority.
That's a big problem. You're exactly right about that, Scott. And I want to have you back anytime you want because this is an ongoing conversation. It's evolving and it's developing as we go forward, and it's an important conversation. But assimilation is a big problem or lack thereof. We'll talk about that next time. Scott Mikowski, greatly appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me, Steve. Pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Former senior ICE official says we got to get him out. What do you think of that? Send me an email, stevegruber.com. Go there, stevegruber.com. Send me an email. Tell me your thoughts. Back with Ivy after this. Your lucky day. All right, let's just jump right back into it, shall we? It's the best part of the whole darn day. Ivy is here with a big smile on her face, being thankful and showing her gratitude for being here. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning. I am happy to be here.
Oh, good. Nice to see you.
Well, soon enough, maybe I'll be here a lot more often.
Yeah, we're working on that. Yeah. Ivy's taking over. It's an Ivy coup.
No, not taking over.
What? Come on, step in there.
Just
I'll sleep in.
Co-hosting.
Yeah, I'll sleep in.
I'll get started on the Ivy Gruber Show logo.
There you go. Attaboy, Anthony. Way to be a team player.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I always
Maybe we'll get the Ivy watch then that everybody wants.
Exactly.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Like, can you imagine just a little picture, like Mickey Mouse watch? It's Ivy.
Ivy's face?
Oh, my goodness. Let's stop.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what everybody wants.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Thank you, everyone. Well, I love to always point out mainstream media hypocrisy.
Oh, boy.
And here is a clip from CNN.
Abby Phillips?
Abby Phillips.
Yeah.
Let's play that.
2 Republicans say Muslims don't belong here after an attempted terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, and the House Speaker Mike Johnson says nothing really to condemn those comments. Another special guest is going to be with us at the table.
Wait.
Hey, play it again.
Yeah,
2 Republicans say Muslims don't belong here after an attempted terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, and the House Speaker Mike Johnson says nothing really to condemn those comments.
Okay, you're good. You come back to us. So
this bomb, she's talking about the bomb attack that were these terrorists who are now in jail.
Yes,
made
ISIS.
Nail bombs and threw them into the crowd of Trump supporters, and that was an attack on
Mayor Mamdani
because it was near his house somewhere. That's not hypocrisy. That's dishonesty.
Absolutely is. It's
shameful.
It's false reporting, and the reality is this happens all the time, right? Where CNN, MSN now, I think is what they call it.
MSLSD, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, MSLSD. Chicken Noodle News, as you like to call CNN.
Well, that's accurate, isn't it?
Well, certainly, especially when you have reporting like that. That is not journalism. That is just complete propaganda.
Yeah. Mamdani was not the focus of any
we
criminal
shouldn't have
attack.
Muslims in our country. This is what she's saying, that a couple of Republicans said that Muslims shouldn't be in our country. And then she says, well, Muslims attacked Mamdani, which isn't true at all. The
terrorist attack was on Mamdani. That's patently false.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've explained to the audience everything that occurred.
I have. We've been through it. Yeah. I mean, it was all caught on camera. It was 2 radicals. Their parents
ISIS extremists, right?
Yeah, their parents were immigrants from Afghanistan, so they're first generation here, or maybe they came in as children. Doesn't matter, but they came here, and then they turn around and attack those supporting Donald Trump near Gracie Mansion, which is the name of the house that the mayor of New York lives in, Gracie Mansion. And anyhow, to suggest that Mamdani was the focus of that attack is bizarre. Bizarre. She should resign.
Yeah, I think so too.
She won't.
She won't. And CNN won't make her because they're just a propagandist machine.
Correct.
So I want to play another bite for you. It's about a minute here. So, Anthony, this is Randy Weingartner at the World Economic Forum talking about school curriculums. Let's hear it.
So part of what we're trying to do here is say, how do we create this partnership between education, labor, government, and industry with the goal of creating these pathways so that kids, when they come out of high school or they come out of college, don't have to start saying, what am I going to do next? The pathways become important, and to create those pathways, you also have to create a curriculum, and you have to create this engagement with each other.
Excuse me?
And the last thing I'll say is this. When you do it, in the United States of America, we have 16,000 school districts. We have over 100,000 schools. There are industry partners all over. And you, Kiva, were the one who said, you can't keep on doing this industry by industry. You're the one who said, you can't keep on doing this governor by governor. How do we use the WEF to create this kind of integrated network so that we're all working together?
All right.
So that kids...
I want to end it a little early there because essentially she's saying that the World Economic Forum should be the ones writing school curriculums.
Right.
Okay. And I don't know if you noticed in that clip, but a couple seats away from her is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and many other governors. But it's, I find that education today is very outdated. I mean, our kid right now is working on an argumentative written assignment, but the article is from like 10 years ago that they're reviewing. It's like, guys, maybe you might want to update your content.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
One size fits all doesn't
work.
It doesn't work. One. Two,
my mother said 25 years ago, when you start teaching to a test, maybe longer ago than that.
Yeah.
When you start teaching to a test, 35 years ago, she said this. You're not teaching the kids. Teach the kids to read, write, and do arithmetic, but they wanted to teach to the test, these MEP tests, so they could get funding from the state. So you're teaching to a test. You're not teaching critical thinking.
No. Well, why would we teach that?
And Randy Weingarten is one of the worst offenders. She is not an educator. She is a political activist and hack, period.
Yes, but they're always working to create this new world order, if you will, in terms of how the government and labor and industry should be educating our kids, which, hey,
not the parents
or what's best for the kids.
Right.
And making sure that they can succeed in life, having skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, just like you said.
Karl Marx would blush. He's so proud.
Yeah, right.
I mean, seriously.
But it is something I think that we really need to talk about. How do we reimagine education in our country?
Here's how you do it. You go back to a 1910 eighth grade book from school where they teach reading, writing. We've seen the test from eighth grade. Remember, they appeared online when they peeled back a wall of a school and showed the extent that kids had to think for themselves, not think this, checklist. Kid needs to think this, climate change, social justice, blah, blah, blah.
I think it's only going to come when parents demand it. So.
Way to irritate me before the segment's over. I mean, I'm kidding.
Love you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Final thoughts after this. Day 11 in the war. Day 11 in the war. And I just can't help but thinking about the bicentennial. I was talking about it earlier, but it's just kind of on my mind is, whenever America is in conflict, generally we come together. Division over this sort of thing is a more recent phenomenon. Now, I get it. Looking back at what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan makes us all have pause to say, that was not a good series of decisions. How does it end is the question. How does it end? And on day 11 here, the idea that this war will be over in a week is, I just don't think that's serious. I don't think that's serious. I was asked yesterday, do you take the over and under on 1 month from now, the war will still be going? Over. Look, it's like moving. I'll use this analogy. War is like moving. When you move the big stuff first, the bed, the couch, the furniture, but then you open the junk drawer, and then you got to sort. That takes hours or days, going through the little stuff. It's kind of the way war is. You can hit the big stuff first. It looks really impressive. But the cleanup phases, finding the nuclear material, doing all the things, all the detail work to make sure that this regime does not rebuild itself and start making deadly drones and ballistic missiles again. That takes time, and time will be necessary here. So don't expect this to be done in a week or two, because I don't. Now, the president seems optimistic, but what do you expect from the president? Of course he's optimistic. He made the decision to pull the trigger here, and I support that. So far, my opinion is subject to change if it needs to change, if it drags on, or we don't have clear goals in a couple of weeks or a month or 2 months or whatever it turns out to be. But for now, I support what happened because we've been targeted for 47 years. And we'll keep an eye on it. We'll talk about it, and we'll take your opinions. If you don't support it, I get it. If you do, I get it. If you're somewhere in between, you're not sure, I get it. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. And remember, my friends, only you can save America. Yes, Mr. President. Yes. I appreciate that. All right, thank you.